Have you ever wondered why survivors of narcissistic abuse act the way they do? It's not madness, it's survival. When you spend years walking on eggshells around a master manipulator, you aren't just dealing with a difficult relationship, you are living in a psychological war zone. To survive that environment, your brain undergoes a literal structural rewrite. It drops its normal settings and enters a primitive, high alert state, rewiring your neural pathways just to keep you safe from a predator who claims to love you. Once you finally break free and escape the toxicity, the physical danger might be gone, but your brain is still operating on those old wartime settings. You might notice some strange, highly specific quirks in your everyday behavior that make you feel like you're losing your mind. But you aren't crazy. What you are experiencing are the deep, lingering echoes of severe psychological warfare. Let's strip away all the medical jargon, cut out all the fluff, and speak totally straight about the reality of what happened to you. Here are the first 3 undeniable signs of narcissistic trauma, explained exactly as they manifest in real life. 1. Excessive self-blame. Imagine a coffee cup slips out of your hand and shatters on the kitchen floor. Instead of thinking, "Oops, that was clumsy," an overwhelming wave of dread hits your chest, and your brain instantly screams, "It's my fault. I ruin everything." Even when something completely out of your control happens, like a sudden downpour ruining an outdoor plan, or a colleague showing up to work in a bad mood, you automatically scramble to figure out how you caused it. This is the phenomenon of becoming a literal blame magnet, and it is one of the most toxic, deep-rooted handovers of narcissistic abuse. This happens because narcissists are absolute masters of psychological projection. They lack the emotional maturity to handle their own negative feelings, failures, or insecurities. If they feel bad, someone else must have made them feel that way. If they make a mistake, someone else must have tripped them up. For months or years, they systematically pointed the finger at you, blaming you for their explosive rages, their financial issues, and ironically, even the abuse they inflicted on you. They used insidious tactics like gaslighting to completely distort your perception of reality until you couldn't tell up from down. Eventually, your mind cracked under the relentless pressure, and you swallowed their giant lie just to keep the peace. You realized that if you just agreed with them and took the blame early, the screaming might stop a few minutes sooner. You internalized their voice, adopting it as your own inner critic. Today, you are still carrying that weight, preemptively taking the fall for everything and everyone around you. If you find yourself constantly absorbing the guilt of the room and apologizing for things you didn't do, it is because you were systematically trained, broken down, and conditioned to be their permanent, lifelong scapegoat. 2. Hypervigilance. You are sitting in a quiet room and someone shifts slightly in their chair, sighs heavily, or taps their foot. Instantly, your heart starts racing, your muscles tighten, and your throat goes dry. To the outside world, you look incredibly jumpy, sensitive, or downright paranoid. But you aren't paranoid at all. You have just been brutally conditioned by a toxic dynamic to constantly expect imminent explosions. This exhausting state of existence is called hypervigilance, and it means your central nervous system is stuck on a permanent, never-ending red alert. When you live with a narcissist, peace is an illusion. You quickly learn that a calm morning could turn into an absolute nightmare in a matter of seconds over a misplaced set of keys or a perceived slight. To survive, your brain forced you to become an expert psychological profiler. You learned to read the room like a hawk, analyzing every micro-expression on their face, measuring the heavy cadence of their footsteps down the hallway, and decoding the sharp tone behind a seemingly innocent text message. You had to predict their volcanic mood swings before they even happened, just to shield yourself from getting emotionally decimated. The tragedy of escaping the narcissist is that your brain doesn't just switch back to normal overnight. Your sense of fundamental safety and trust was completely shattered. Now, even in perfectly safe environments, with people who truly care about you, your mind is still frantically scanning for hidden malice behind every ordinary comment. You are constantly reading between lines that aren't even there, waiting for the other shoe to drop, and anticipating a sudden attack. Your body is still living in the trauma of the past because, with a narcissist, the explosion always came. 3. People-pleasing. To the average person, a people-pleaser is just someone who's incredibly nice, polite, and eager to helpful. But for a survivor of narcissistic abuse, extreme people-pleasing has absolutely nothing to do with kindness. It is a survival mechanism. It is a protective shield you wear to prevent yourself from being noticed, judged, or targeted. You have transformed into a chronic chameleon, unconsciously morphing your opinions, altering your body language, hiding your true needs, and shifting your entire personality just to match whatever will keep the person across from you completely calm and satisfied. This behavior is a direct reaction to the intense terror of confrontation and rejection that the narcissist drilled into you. In a normal relationship, when you say no or express a different opinion, it leads to a calm discussion. But in a relationship with a narcissist, a boundary is treated as an act of war. If you dared to put your needs first, you were immediately punished with a terrifying fit of rage, a week of punishing silent treatment, or ruthless smear campaigns behind your back. Your brain quickly mapped out a simple, painful equation. Having your own needs equals danger, while keeping others happy equals safety. Over time, you completely disconnected from your own identity. You became so focused on managing the emotions of your abuser that you forgot how to even recognize what you want or feel. Now, the mere thought of setting a basic boundary or saying a simple no to someone triggers an intense, visceral wave of anxiety. You worry that if you aren't constantly making everyone around you completely happy, they will instantly reject you, criticize you, or abandon you. You sacrifice your own mental health, your time, and your boundaries to keep others comfortable, because your trauma has convinced you that a single moment of conflict is an immediate threat to your survival. 4. Self-isolation. You look down at your phone as it lights up with a text from a close friend, or a phone call from a family member who genuinely loves you. Instead of answering, a heavy, suffocating wave of anxiety hits your chest, and you flip the phone face down. You start pulling away from social circles, declining invitations, and locking yourself away in your room for days or weeks at a time. To the outside world, it looks like you've just gone cold, lazy, or deeply antisocial. But you aren't doing this to be rude. You are going ghost because trying to explain the sheer depth of the psychological warfare you just survived feels absolutely impossible to put into human words. How do you explain to someone who has never experienced it that a single look, a specific tone of voice, or a subtle shift in posture from your abuser was enough to completely shatter your spirit? You assume that people will either think you are exaggerating, tell you to just move on, or worse, look at you with pity and judgment. This deep urge to isolate yourself is also driven by the pure, bone-deep exhaustion left behind by the trauma bond. A relationship with a narcissist is a brutal, non-stop roller coaster of intense highs and devastating lows. Your brain was constantly flooded with stress hormones, leaving your nervous system entirely fried and depleted. You simply do not have the emotional currency or the mental energy required to engage in basic, everyday conversations. More than anything, you are terrified that if you open up and share your story, people won't believe you. Narcissists are notorious for putting on a flawless, charming mask in public while saving their worst cruelty for behind closed doors. Because everyone else thinks your abuser is a wonderful person, you live in constant fear of being invalidated. Slowly but surely, extreme isolation becomes your only true sanctuary. Your home, your bedroom, or even your car becomes a fortress where the outside world cannot reach you. Your traumatized brain convinces you of a simple protective logic. If you don't let anyone get close to you, then absolutely no one can ever manipulate, deceive, or hurt you again. It is a desperate coping mechanism designed to give your battered soul a chance to breathe, but it locks you in a prison of your own making, completely cut off from the very support system that could help you heal. 5. Boundary whiplash. When it comes to protecting your personal space and your emotional peace, you live in a state of permanent extreme whiplash. Your boundaries are never middle of the road. They are either a completely flattened doormat or a massive, impenetrable brick wall. On one hand, you might find yourself letting people walk all over your time, your money, and your feelings out of pure habit. You let people take advantage of you, cross lines, and disrespect your space without saying a single word. But then, without warning, the script completely flips. The very second someone tries to get slightly too close to you, asks a perfectly normal personal question, or makes a minor request, you hit the panic button. You fly into a defensive rage, shut the conversation down, or cut the person off entirely. You go from being completely defenseless to wildly overreactive in a matter of seconds. This exhausting all-or-nothing dynamic happens because a narcissist spent years systematically trampling, erasing, and mocking your personal boundaries. In a toxic relationship, having a boundary is treated as a personal insult or an act of defiance. The narcissist went through your phone, dictated who you could talk to, told you how to think, and made sure you had absolutely no privacy or autonomy. Because your personal boundaries were constantly violated, you never actually learned the skill of building and holding a healthy, flexible boundary. You don't know how to calmly say, "Please don't do that, it makes me uncomfortable," and have that request respected. Now that you are out of that environment, your brain views any approach by another human being as a potential invasion. You don't know how to build a normal picket fence with a gate that opens and closes for safe people. Instead, out of survival, you default to the extremes. You either lay down and let people step on you because fighting back feels too dangerous, or you build an absolute fortress with armed guards, treating every innocent person like a predator trying to breach the walls. It is a frantic, chaotic attempt to protect an inner core that was thoroughly violated and stripped of its dignity for far too long. 6. Chronic self-doubt. Think about the last time you had to make a completely mundane, everyday decision. Maybe it was choosing what to wear to an event, deciding what to eat for dinner, or picking out a basic item at the store. Did you make the choice confidently, or did you freeze up, panic, and feel a desperate need to text 2 or 3 friends to get their opinion and validation first? If you are trapped in a state of permanent mental paralysis over the simplest choices in life, you can directly thank the relentless gaslighting of the narcissist. Chronic self-doubt is not a natural personality trait you were born with. It is a psychological weapon that was intentionally used against you to destroy your autonomy. Narcissists cannot control an independent, confident person who trusts their own instincts. Therefore, to gain total control, they must systematically erode your trust in your own memory, your own perception, and your own sanity. Every single day, they told you that things didn't happen the way you remembered them. They called you crazy, told you that you were being too sensitive, and confidently denied flat-out facts that happened right in front of your face. If you said the sky was blue, they would argue with such absolute conviction that it was green, until you actually started questioning your own eyesight. After months or years of this psychological distortion, your brain finally gave up trying to hold on to its own reality. You stopped trusting your gut feelings because your abuser convinced you that your gut was always wrong. Now that you are free, you live in a permanent, suffocating mental fog. You don't trust your own eyes, your own ears, or your own judgment. You constantly replay past conversations, obsessing over whether you misread the situation, and you seek massive amounts of external reassurance for every tiny move you make, because the narcissist successfully trained you to believe that your own mind is an unreliable narrator. 7. Compulsive apologizing. I'm sorry for taking up room on the couch. I'm sorry for walking too loudly. I'm sorry for asking a question. Sorry for just breathing and existing. If your automatic knee-jerk reaction to literally every single human interaction is to utter the words, "I'm sorry," you are dealing with a direct, undeniable hangover of severe narcissistic abuse. You find yourself compulsively apologizing when someone else bumps into you in the grocery store, or apologizing when the weather is bad on a day you plan to go out with friends. You are constantly carrying an unspoken, underlying sense that your mere presence in a room is an inconvenience to the people around you. In a healthy relationship, an apology is a tool used to repair a genuine mistake and show empathy. But inside the twisted, toxic dynamic of narcissistic abuse, an apology is a literal shield used to deflect oncoming violence. You quickly realize that when the narcissist was in a foul mood, they were looking for any excuse to ignite a war. It didn't matter if the dinner was 5 minutes late or if a shoe was left by the door. Their rage was a volcano waiting to erupt. To keep yourself safe, minimize the damage, and de-escalate their terrifying tantrums, you learn to preemptively surrender by taking the blame and apologizing before they could even open their mouth. This constant survival tactic eventually rewired your daily habits. You learned to live in a state of perpetual submission, believing that if you kept yourself small enough, quiet enough, and apologetic enough, you could maintain a fragile, temporary sense of peace. Now that you are out of that relationship, you are still running that exact same survival script. You apologize 20 times a day, not because you've actually done anything wrong, but because your nervous system is still deeply terrified that if you don't instantly claim fault, an emotional explosion is coming to destroy you. 8. Idealizing new relationships. The absolute moment you finally break free from the clutches of a narcissist, a terrifyingly common trap awaits you, plunging headfirst into a brand new romance. You meet someone new, and within days, your brain convinces you that this person is your ultimate soulmate, a flawless angel sent to rescue you, and the absolute antithesis of your toxic ex. You put them on a massive pedestal, convincing yourself that this relationship is a perfect fairy tale. This dangerous phenomenon is known as the rebound effect, but for a trauma survivor, it is fueled by an intense subconscious starvation. Because you spent years trapped in an emotional desert, denied basic respect, affection, warmth, and validation, your entire psychological system is completely depleted. When a new person steps up and shows you standard, baseline human decency, your traumatized brain misinterprets that simple kindness as an extraordinary, once-in-a-lifetime love story. It feels like a thirsty person in a desert being handed a glass of water and convincing themselves they've discovered a magical oasis. The underlying danger of this illusion is that your focus is entirely warped by your past trauma. You become so fiercely obsessed with scanning this new partner for the exact, specific red flags of your previous abuser that you completely blind yourself to an entirely new set of warning signs. If your narcissistic ex was loudly aggressive and financially irresponsible, you might fall hard for someone who is completely quiet and financially secure, totally missing the fact that this new person is deeply passive-aggressive, emotionally unavailable, or subtly controlling in a different way. You trick yourself into thinking that because they don't act exactly like the narcissist, they must be completely safe. This hyper-focus on the old enemy causes you to rush into deep commitments way too fast, bypassing the necessary time it takes to truly get to know a person's character. You use the new relationship as an emotional painkiller to avoid the agony of your unhealed wounds, desperately trying to rewrite your tragic story before you've even processed the trauma of the first war. 9. Imposter syndrome. You could land a massive promotion at work, build a successful business from the ground up, achieve financial freedom, or receive overwhelming praise from your peers. But none of it registers in your mind. Instead of feeling proud of your incredible achievements, a cold, sickening wave of fraudulence washes over you. You look at your trophies, your bank account, or your degree, and your brain instantly whispers, "You just got lucky. You tricked everyone." Eventually, the mask is going to slip, and they are all going to realize how completely incompetent you actually are. This agonizing mental trap is severe imposter syndrome, and it lives inside you because narcissists fundamentally hate your success. To a narcissist, your growth, your talents, and your brilliance are a direct threat to their control over you. If you are strong, confident, and capable, you won't need them anymore. So they make it their personal mission to systematically sabotage your self-worth. Whenever you succeeded in the past, the narcissist was right there to tear you down. They belittled your hard work, mocked your ambitions, attributed your wins to pure luck, or maliciously took full credit for your achievements. Over years of this relentless undermining, you were deeply conditioned to believe that you are fundamentally flawed, broken, and incapable of true greatness. Now that you are out of that toxic shadow, actual success feels incredibly foreign and terrifying to your nervous system. Your brain has been wired to associate your personal wins with incoming punishment, criticism, or jealousy. Therefore, when you actually achieve something great in the real world, it creates a massive psychological clash. You cannot reconcile the reality of your brilliant competence with the toxic lie you were forced to believe for so long. True success starts to feel like an elaborate lie you are accidentally telling the world, leaving you in constant fear of being exposed for a failure you never actually were. 10. Difficulty expressing emotions. You find yourself sitting in a room completely disconnected from your own internal world. When a situation occurs that should make you deeply sad, you feel completely numb, staring blankly ahead like a robot. When someone crosses a line and you should be furiously angry, you instantly swallow the rage, smiling politely while your stomach twists into painful knots. You have built a massive, impenetrable emotional lockbox inside your own mind, completely shutting down your ability to feel, express, or even identify your own raw emotions. To the outside world, you might look cold, unfeeling, or perfectly calm under pressure. But beneath that frozen surface, you are dealing with a severe emotional disconnect. This deep numbness is a heavy-duty coping mechanism that your mind was forced to develop during the height of the abuse, simply to shield you from psychological destruction. In a healthy environment, expressing emotions is a natural way to connect and seek comfort. But inside the twisted house of mirrors that is a narcissistic relationship, showing any form of genuine emotion is like handing a lethal weapon directly to an enemy who wants to hurt you. If you cried because they hurt your feelings, the narcissist laughed at you, mocked your sensitivity, or used your tears as an excuse to get even angrier. If you showed excitement about a new hobby or a friend, They instantly found a way to ruin it and make you feel foolish. You quickly learned that your authentic feelings were always weaponized against you, twisted into ammunition, and used to humiliate you. To survive that daily emotional firing squad, your brain activated its emergency protocol. It pulled the master plug on your emotional expression. You learned to freeze, detach, and bury your feelings deep inside a concrete vault where the abuser could never reach them. Now that you are safe, that vault remains tightly sealed out of pure habit, leaving you terrified to open up because your nervous system still believes that feeling anything at all is deeply dangerous. When you look back at this entire list of heavy, confusing, and painful behaviors, you might feel a deep sense of despair. You might look at your self-doubt, your isolation, your hypervigilance, and your constant apologizing, and think that you are permanently broken or ruined. But I need you to completely flip your perspective right now. These behaviors are not flaws. They are not personal failures, and they are absolutely not a reflection of who you truly are. They are scars. They are the undeniable physical proof of a brutal psychological war that your mind had to fight every single day just to keep you alive and breathing. Your brain didn't adopt these habits because it is weak. It adopted them because it is a brilliant, powerful survival machine that did whatever it took to drag you out of that hellhole. Acknowledging these strange quirks is not a sign of weakness or shame. It is the absolute first, most powerful step toward reclaiming your identity, stepping out of the fog, rewiring your nervous system, and finally taking your absolute power back.